Republican Senate Majority Leader John Thune was forced by Fox News host Martha MacCallum during their interview to address repeated demands by Donald Trump to change Senate procedure to benefit Trump in the short term, forcing Thune to publicly rebuke and reject Trump's demands, effectively giving him the finger on live TV on Fox. But before we unpack all that, if you end up liking this video and you want to support the channel, please be sure to hit the like, subscribe, and alert bells before you go. All right, friends, as you know, if you've been following this channel, Donald Trump has repeatedly demanded that Senate Republicans abolish what's known as the blue slip. The blue slip effectively allows for senators of a particular state to prevent a presidential nominee for a district judge or a U.S. attorney and some certain positions in the federal government. So if Donald Trump wants to fill a U.S. attorney position in New Jersey, the New Jersey senators can say, nope, pick somebody else. It's called the blue slip, and it's been a Senate tradition for decades. Both Republicans and Democrats have used it against the opposite party. Trump is being stymied by the blue slips, and so he's demanding that Senate Republicans just change the rules. He says, blue slips are making it impossible to get great Republican judges and U.S. attorneys approved to serve in any state where there's even a single Democrat senator. If they say no, then it's over for that very well-qualified Republican candidate. Only a really far-left Democrat can be approved. It's shocking that Republicans, under Senator Chuck Grassley, will allow this scam to continue. So unfair to Republicans and not constitutional. I'm hereby asking Senate Majority Leader John Thune, a fantastic guy, to get something done, ideally the termination of blue slips. Too many great Republicans are being sent packing, none are getting approved. Donald J. Trump. Now, again, he has publicly made this demand repeatedly over the past few months, and both Chuck Grassley and John Thune have essentially ignored him. Well, John Thune couldn't ignore this. This is Mitch McConnell's replacement. He's the new leader of the Republicans in the Senate. He was confronted about Trump's urgent, repeated demands to abolish the blue slip during his Fox News interview, forcing Thune in his very low-key way to basically give Trump the finger.
Earlier today, President Trump said he had a chance to be with you, and he talked about this. He said, I am hereby asking Senate Majority Leader John Thune, a fantastic guy, to get something done, ideally the termination of blue slips. Too many great Republicans are being sent packing. None are getting approved. And signed, President GJT. Can you explain to people just real quickly what a blue slip is, and are you going to do something that will deal with his concerns?
Well, this is something that applies just to district court judges and U.S. attorneys, and it allows individuals, the senators from those states, to be able to sign off on the people who are nominated to those positions. That doesn't apply to circuit court judges, obviously doesn't apply to Supreme Court judges. And we have moved his nominees through the process at a record rate. We will, by the end of this year, have a record number of his nominees approved to the executive branch. Got his cabinet confirmed at the fastest rate possible. We'll continue to work on the judiciary, Dana, but this is a procedure that's been in place for a long time that both Republicans and Democrats support, because it gives them some input, particularly in those judges, the judicial appointments that are made in their individual states, some input into that decision-making process.
So you don't anticipate changing it?
I don't think it's going to change. It's been in place for a long time, and like I said, there are Republicans on the Judiciary Committee and off the Judiciary Committee, for that matter, who support this and support it strongly.
So again, basically telling Donald Trump no. Now, obviously, when you're dealing with a cult of personality like the GOP, it's entirely possible that they reverse course and abandon principle and abandon continuity in previously held positions to benefit Trump in the short term. But this is something that so far the Republicans have held their ground on, right? Now, I will point out, because Thune said it doesn't apply to the Supreme Court and it doesn't apply to circuit judges. Now, the blue slip never really applied, as far as I can tell, to the Supreme Court, but there was, of course, a filibuster that you could invoke against the Supreme Court. Mitch McConnell in 2017 abolished the filibuster for the Supreme Court, so now you can pass it with a simple majority. And then the circuit court, what's interesting there is blue slips definitely did apply to circuit court nominees, but Trump and the Republicans abolished the blue slip for circuit court nominees. Again, they walked back their principle. They were willing to compromise their principles. That's why I say, just because Thune says they won't do it for district judges and U.S. attorneys doesn't mean that they won't, because they did it for circuit judges. The Republican Party is objectively an unprincipled political organization. You can never count on them to 100% remain principled. They are morally inferior than Democratic politicians in this respect. But again, Politico was reporting on this as well. John Thune poured cold water on a fresh call by Donald Trump for Republicans to nix the blue slip practice that gives senators an effective veto over presidential nominees to certain posts in their states. There are many Republican senators, way more Republican senators, who are interested in preserving that than those who aren't, Thune told reporters. He compared it to the overwhelming GOP sentiment in favor of the 60-vote filibuster rule, which Trump opposes. And according to his prepared remarks, Grassley said he would also like to advance more U.S. attorney picks, but, quote, I'm hamstrung waiting for background investigations and other paperwork from the administration. So Chuck Grassley and the Republicans are saying, actually, it's kind of Trump's fault that we're not able to make more progress than what we have because his administration sucks at compliance with Congress, of course, because Trump has no interest in dealing with Congress. But I didn't read this yet, but I saw right before I fired this video up to record it, the Wall Street Journal, Kimberly Strassel, they have an opinion post on the blue slips. And so I thought this would be really interesting because, of course, the Wall Street Journal and Kimberly Strassel are conservative, right? And they tend to like Trump more than dislike, but they're also willing to criticize him a lot more than most other conservative publications. Okay, so let's dive in. Trump's blue slip blues. Trump is railing over Senate tradition, but he's pointing his finger in the wrong direction. Alina Habba's Monday resignation as top federal prosecutor in New Jersey inspired Trump to take another swing at the GOP's failure to axe the blue slip tradition, which allows minority senators to veto nominees to federal judgeships and U.S. attorney positions in their home states. Quote, it's a horrible thing. It makes it impossible to appoint a judge or U.S. attorney, and it's a shame. And the Republicans should be ashamed of themselves that they allow this to go on, because I can't appoint a U.S. attorney that's not a Democrat, he told reporters. He's in the past singled out Judiciary Chairman Chuck Grassley for refusing to abolish blue slips, even threatening to file, quote, a lawsuit on blue slipping. Trump is good at getting his party to bow to his demands, but he's misreading the room here. The situation is simply not going to change. Congress has abdicated many roles to the executive branch, but the Senate continues to guard closely its constitutional power of advising consent. Not really, but whatever. The vast majority of senators have used blue slips to their advantage, and sometimes to Trump's, and there's no majority to abolish them. No amount of foot stamping will change that, and Trump's attempt to end-run the Senate by temporarily installing his picks is mainly serving to derail prosecutions and inject chaos into the Justice Department. Consider the committee block. Grassley is a blue slip stalwart, but he isn't alone in that view. Even if he were to cave, he won't. Fellow committee member Tom Tillis says that, quote, he'll honor the blue slip for as long as I'm a U.S. senator, even if his colleagues ignore it. John Kennedy, also on the committee, has expressed support for Grassley's position. With a 12-10 majority, it takes just one GOP senator to create a committee tie and block a nominee from advancing. If a Trump nominee lacks blue slip approval from a Democrat, that nominee isn't getting out of committee. Senate floor block. Even if a blue slip nomination gets out of committee, it wouldn't make it to the Senate. No small number of Republicans continue to support the blue slip tradition, from John Thune to old schoolers like Mitch McConnell and Maine Susan Collins. Again, there aren't the 50 votes to approve a nominee lacking blue slip approval. Advantage to all. Why the fealty tradition? In part, a desire to assert Senate prerogative, but even more than that, senators care about having a say in their home state affairs. U.S. attorneys and federal judges wield huge power, and Republicans, when they've been in the minority, have freely used the blue slip to veto unpalatable Democratic nominees, including U.S. attorneys. Ron Johnson of Wisconsin in 2022 refused to support President Biden's nominee to be a U.S. attorney from his state, citing her partisan comments. She was never confirmed. Biden didn't even nominate individuals for U.S. attorney positions in at least 8 red states, knowing he'd run into blue slip problems. Grassley noted in August that Republicans used blue slip opposition to block more than 30 Biden judge picks, leaving those slots available to Trump to fill. Democrats won't be able to get rid of the blue slip because it currently advantages them. Senate Republicans won't either because they know they'll be back in the minority at some point. Okay? Democrats have certainly raised obstruction to a new level this term, for instance, demanding roll call votes for even straightforward nominees. This has poisoned waters. Some Democratic senators resolutely refuse to give blue slip approval to any Trump nominee. Okay? But compromises can be found. And she lists some examples there. So, again, I just find that interesting that even the Wall Street Journal is cautioning him to be very careful and not to push too much. They predict he absolutely won't get his way. Again, she neglects to mention she could have used this as an example, but again, it would require admitting that Republicans screwed up and are morally inferior and unprincipled to Democratic politicians. She could have pointed out that in 2017, 2018, that the Senate Republicans abolished the blue slip for circuit court judges. I'll try to pull this up right now. Let's see. This is from what's the here? Alliance for Justice, their history of the blue slips. 2018, Chairman Grassley scrapped the blue slip policy as it is applied to circuit court nominees, claiming that, quote, a negative or unreturned blue slip won't necessarily prevent a circuit court nominee from receiving a hearing unless the White House failed to consult with home state senators. So again, basically, we just have to consult with you. We just have to meet with you. But at the end of the day, it's ultimately up to us. In this stunning change of policy, Judge Strauss became the first circuit court nominee since 1982 to be confirmed without home state senators returning blue slips. During this period, the Senate confirmed at least a dozen of the Trump administration's circuit court nominees who did not receive at least one home state senator's blue slip. The Senate further confirmed multiple nominees who failed to receive a positive blue slip from either of their home state senators, even though Democrats returned more than 100 blue slips for Trump's nominees during this 4-year period. Let's see here. Chairman Durbin has followed the precedent set by Republicans and applied the blue slip tradition only to district court nominees. This was under President Biden when Democrats won control of the Senate judiciary back in 2020. Let's see here. It's interesting. Despite Senator Toomey's opposition to her nomination, Marsha Blackburn accused of unfairly characterizing the nominee. The reason I point that out here, as I was hoping this would have it, is Republicans complained after they changed the rule to benefit Trump, and then they lost power, and Democrats said, okay, we changed the rules for circuit judges, so we'll just keep the rules as they are, the way you changed them, right? Republicans were upset. They were like, no, we get to change the rules when it benefits us, but when it doesn't benefit us, you got to go back and make the rules favorable to us. And Democrats said no, and there should be more of that energy. Kimberly Strassel could have mentioned that, like, hey, you guys actually tried that before, and then you bitched and moaned when the shoe was on the other foot, so maybe don't do that again. But again, it just goes to show that Republican politicians are morally inferior, so it probably is the reason she didn't include it. But there you have it. The bottom line is this. Donald Trump is again making public demands of Senate Republicans to bend the knee, and at least this instance, John Thune on Fox News is like, no, and get over it. We'll see what happens, but in the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.